Hiya, moms and dads. Adventures in Collecting is about toys, but it might not be for your children, especially if you don't like words like f*** or sh** or a**hole.
Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting. We're back.
Hi. I wanted to make y'all wait for it for a minute.
Not only did you add a dramatic pause, but you also threw in a y'all.
Yeah.
Look at you. Where did that come from this week?
I think that's just been something that's been hidden for a while, but also one of my friends basically opens every sentence with it, so it's cool.
All right. I'm Dave, I'm into it. And if it makes you happy, it makes me happy.
Yeah. My girlfriend's friend is from South Carolina, and it's just,
Hey,
you hear it enough and it becomes part of you.
We've said it before. We're from New Jersey. Our accent is kind of always evolving, right? Like we're just from that part of the country. Well, as usual, Dave, I am not going to bury the lead.
Oh, I was gonna ask. I asked on the Halloween. I mean, there was no Halloween episode. That wasn't canon.
Yeah, we said we're never going to speak of that again.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So the lead that I am not burying, Dave, is that we have a special guest with us today.
Do we, Eric?
Yeah. So, Bluefin, also known as Bandai Namco Collectibles, they bring iconic toys and collectibles from the likes of Bandai Hobby, Tamashii Nations, Shokugan, Storm Collectibles, Flame Toys, Sentinel, Studio Ghibli, Blitzway, and so much more into homes all over the world. Joining us this week on the show to talk about all things imports is Justin Cavender, digital content and design coordinator at Bluefin. Justin, thank you for joining us on Adventures in Collecting.
Hey, thank you for having me. And I just want to say that you guys have totally ruined all movies for me where there's someone from New Jersey, because I thought everyone's supposed to call like each other like a scumbag and and have like this really cool accent, like not for nothing, but you're a freaking scumbag, and I'm not getting any of that from you guys, and it's really breaking my heart. I'm like, oh my god, like 40 years, movies have been lying to me, and I am outraged.
What you talking about?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to hear.
If I talk quickly enough, something will happen. But
this fucking guy over here.
There you go. Is swearing allowed on this podcast? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, swearing is okay with us if it's okay with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'll try not to swear, but every once in a while, if I get worked up, I might drop an F-bomb or something like that.
We're human beings, so
gotcha.
We have wide vocabularies.
Yes.
So Justin, first things first, this is a show about toys and toy collecting. So when we have a special guest on, the first thing that we always like to ask is, what do you collect, and what is what's kind of driving you in the toy collecting world right now?
Oh man, dude, I am all about Transformers right now. Like, absolutely gone crazy town, banana pants for Transformers. I dare say I have an addiction. And it really came out of nowhere, because when I was a kid, I played with like He-Man and G.I. Joe, and I had a few Transformers like Bumblebee and Refractor, and I had a Soundwave, but that was it. And now it's my time, and I'm like, I gotta catch them all. It's really weird. It just, over the summer, I was just like, you know what? I really want Transformers. I'm just gonna go all out and get some Transformers.
Now, we follow you on Twitter and Instagram, and you've been posting a lot of pictures of the Studio Series line. And I have to ask, I am not ashamed to admit that I am late to the game with Transformers. I believe it or not, the Michael Bay films are actually what got me into Transformers. And I know, like, you say that to people who have collected Transformers their entire lives, and they immediately gasp in horror.
Oh yeah.
I've seen
After they
it.
wipe off their monocle and put it back on their face.
Yeah, I've seen it in person. I mentioned it at a toy show once, and the conversation ended very quickly after
Yeah,
that.
that can happen. Yeah.
But I also love those Studio Series figures, and I'm just curious: is it the same kind of way for you, or do you just like prefer the design of them?
Well, it's a little bit of both actually. I think they photograph really well. Like I really dig the War for Cybertron stuff too, and they're cool and all, but you see a lot of the grays and the plastics and the joints and stuff. So when it's traditional to like like your Gen One sort of take on Transformers, it's really cool and everything. But I think the Studio Series just photograph really really well. So I get both.
Cool.
I am not biased, but I am a sucker for the first two Michael Bay movies, and I really liked Bumblebee. I didn't care for 3, 4, or 5, but I really dug the rest.
After the first two, they are kind of just a mess of explosions and even some reused footage
Right?
from,
Yeah.
from the first two.
Yeah, no, totally. But I really enjoy the first two. I think they're fantastic, and I finally completed my Devastator. I say finally; it was only a couple months, but it was a total chore, but it was fun at the same time. And literally, the night I finished it, I go to bed with the biggest smile on my face, and I wake up, and then there's Hasbro announcing like this box set of all of them, and I'm just like, "Are you serious? You're killing me right now! I literally just built this thing 12 hours ago, and now you got this whole set, and I've been waiting for parts all over the world to get to me." And I don't want to say I was upset, but I was. It took the wind out of my sails. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't imagine how large that box is. Like how,
Yeah.
like because I've seen Devastator built outside of the pictures you posted, and I've seen him like to scale with other stuff. I truly cannot imagine how large that box is going to be.
Yeah, it looks pretty. I'm sure it's pretty big. It's 8 robots, which is quite a bit. And like, I got the Scorponok for the War for Cybertron Scorponok, and it's pretty big
Yeah,
too. I haven't opened it yet. I'm kind of waiting till I have like this whole sort of collection thing going to where I can just have like this all out like play diorama set thing that I'm going for. And I figured if I opened it, then I might talk myself out of doing it. So it's just one of those things where I'm just like, well, I'll just hang on to it and not play with it and get fully committed.
Yeah, those are like fantastic. I've enjoyed seeing all of the new Transformers stuff. But to kind of change course a little bit, how did you find your way to where you are with Bluefin?
Oh man, I've been doing a lot of journalism for the last decade or so. I go to all the trade shows and interview people, much like you guys are doing at Toy Fair. And I did a lot of podcasts, and my name just kind of got thrown out, and I did some interviews and sent in an application and all that jazz. And before I knew it, I was living in Seattle at the time, and got this awesome phone call saying, "Hey, we want you to come work for us." And so I packed up my stuff and headed on down to Southern California, which is where I'm from originally. I spent most of my life here, 30 years of my life here, and then spent the last decade in Seattle, and then came on back. And so it was pretty crazy. So it's just a series of doing a lot of fun videos and a lot of interviews, and just eventually it just all kind of came together, which is pretty crazy because at the time I was actually a store director for Staples, and before that I was a manager at Target. And so I've kind of done a lot of things. I mentioned I was a janitor, I was a used car salesman at one point. So I think the moral of the story is just keep chasing after your dreams, man, because you'll get there eventually. It might just take you a little bit longer than you wanted it to, but you just gotta work hard and be your best self, and it'll pay off eventually.
yeah. It's kind of interesting, in the just over a year that we've been doing this podcast and kind of blogging about toys. Dave and I have obviously, we're passionate about it. We've collected for a long time, but all of the people that we talk to, it's so cool just to hear that, just being passionate about, action figures and toys and collectibles, eventually, like, if you follow that passion kind of you follow it with fervor, and you keep an eye out for opportunities that, like, this industry likes to scoop up people that are passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in interestingly enough, I remember in 1998, I had just graduated high school, and I was flipping through this Toy Fair magazine, and I remember thinking, how cool would it be to go to a toy fair and just see all this new stuff? And then, fast forward to 2019, and I'm in a room with our CEO and our director of e-commerce and our CMO, and it's just like, oh my god, I'm in this room and we're planning Toy Fair, and on my way home, I was just like, I was like ready to cry. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I can't believe that I'm going to be going to Toy Fair. And then when I got there, I helped set up the largest booth that was at the event, and it was just a real like touching moment. It was nuts, dude. It was a dream come true. It took 22 years, but it happened.
Yeah, and that booth, for the people that didn't see it, we took a bunch of pictures, but it was extremely impressive. I mean, the giant Gundam alone, just kind of chilling
Yeah.
in front. I mean, it was so expansive, and it was you guys were on the same floor as you were pretty close to the Funko area too.
Yeah,
Like,
Funko and NECA, yeah. And then Super 7 was down the same aisle as us, but just a little bit further
yeah,
down.
and
Yeah,
it
it's really
was
cool. Made friends with all those folks too. They're very
that's
nice people.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, like, Toy Fair doesn't come off how it photographs. It's like it's larger, it's more expansive. It's extremely impressive, to be honest.
Oh, I know. There's so much going on. I was like looking at this one booth with like hula hoops and another booth with RC cars and another booth with board games. Like I was just all over the place. I was like stroking out, and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening right now, but I'm loving every second of it. And just really cool, man. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah, this was our first as well. So I mean, walking around the first day, I was actually there by myself. Dave was not able to make it, and like I just remember at one point I sat down, and I actually sat down at the one of the seats in your booth, and I turned around. I was just like, oh, there's like a 5 foot tall Totoro behind me.
Yeah, over in the Ghibli
Today,
section. Yeah.
yeah, it's like today is real weird.
Yeah, that was a cool booth, man. We had that giant Gundam statue that you mentioned. There was that Godzilla. There was a Goku. There's a lot going on, and of course the Totoro.
So speaking of all of these, the different brands that that you guys kind of encapsulate, doing what you do for the brand must be insanely interesting because even if the lead time is short, you get kind of get to see everything you know right before everyone else does.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because a lot of times things will end up on my desk that are projected to come out in like April or May of next year. Like just yesterday I got email saying, "Hey, this stuff's coming out in April," and we have to. The whole business side of things is you're reaching out since we're a distributor. We got to reach out to all of our customers, which are places like your Big Bads, your Entertainment Earths, your Amazons, and then your mom and pop like hobby stores and things of that nature. And so they have to decide months in advance if they want to carry this product. So it's pretty crazy. It's like with comic books, same thing, right? Like you guys remember that magazine, like Previews magazine or whatever, where you would see issues that are going to be coming out months in ahead, and you could order it ahead of time and stuff like that. And
Yep.
like Diamond, same thing, they were a distributor. And so you're like, man, do I really want to place my bets on this figure? Is this going to be cool in 6 months? It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the challenge, right? Is predicting how big the wave is going to be, right?
Right. Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's always those staples like Dragon Ball or Sailor Moon and Gundam, and then it gets even more interesting when you have properties that just take off overnight, like something like Demon Slayer, right? That just it was just a all of a sudden it was a thing, and everyone's walking around in these green and black checkered robes, and you're like, what is happening right now? What the world is transforming all around me, and you're like, oh yeah, this is only the number one anime in America right now. And so it's just one of those things where you got to be able to know that that's going to happen and strike while the iron's hot. And people are going to love the show, and then they're going to be like, well, I got to buy figures for it. I got to buy this. I got to buy that. And so, I mean, we've all have that collector's mentality where you see something, you're like, oh my god, I got to have that thing right now, or I'm going to die, and it's going to be awful. And so we just got to be there for our amazing customers when something drops like that.
And two, I'd imagine, to add even more complications to the mix, right? You have a global pandemic that's happening. So you have all these, IPs that have, films and, shows announced that get, kind of thrown asunder because of social distancing and,
Sure.
the way that kind of the industry is operating. So I can't imagine that has made the toy selection / production process any easier.
Right. It definitely complicates things. It's weird though because like Wonder Woman, for example, that movie was going to come out before our SH Figure Arts was going to arrive, and because of the pandemic and pushing it back, it worked out differently. So that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. I was like, all right, because you don't want the figure like too much later after something's come out. So it always gets a little dicey that way. And so, yeah, like something like Sailor Moon movie that got delayed, Evangelion keeps getting pushed back. Monster Hunter just got pushed back. And it's just the nature of the beast. And how sad is that? Like, movie theaters are just struggling to hang on. And, I certainly don't want to go to a movie theater. It's one of my favorite pastimes in all the world. And now I just can't go. I don't want to chance it. It's sad. I hate the idea of just movie theaters closing because they're so dependent on these films to release. Yeah, they make all their money from their concession and everything, but they're not selling any popcorn if there's no one buying tickets. So it's just depressing when you think about it.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. And I mean you have the kind of digital / virtual response, your platforms like Disney Plus and Hulu and even HBO Max getting kind of these releases like, we were just watching that remake of The Witches, the one that from 1990 with Angelica Houston originally, and
Right.
now it has Anne Hathaway in it. And we watched it and I was like, my wife looked at me at one point and she's like, "Why do you look visibly mad? This movie's great." And I actually was like, because I would have loved to have seen this in a theater, like right before Halloween with our daughter. Like this would have been a great like theater movie and probably would have performed really well. But here we are sitting at watching on our TV.
Yeah, no, I know it's nuts, dude. I like the one kid Bruno in that movie. Like in the
Yeah,
original one, I was like, oh man, I'm totally Bruno. I'm just sitting there eating all this chocolate, dude. That's me. This kid's worried
yeah.
about saving the world, and I'm just eating my chocolate.
Not much has changed 30 years later. Bruno is still Bruno.
Oh man, I could do it. I got the build for it. I'm not gonna lie. The that's crazy that you mentioned that too, because like I think the first and only movie I have purchased on demand has been Bill and Ted Face the Music, and I wanted to see that in a theater, but of course that wasn't going to happen, and I was pretty excited to support that movie and Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, and it's been a part of my life since I was 10, so I was like, well, I have to watch it, I have to support these guys, and that was literally the first thing I've ever purchased on demand.
And that movie was fantastic. Like I
Absolutely,
enjoyed it so much.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was good.
they did a really good job with it. Like it had no business being as good as it was for like a part
Right.
3, again like something 30 years later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like
that
it's Jaws 3. Jaws 3 is like the most like award-winning film of all time. True
Yeah,
story.
especially like the part where the severed head scars the lives of children attending SeaWorld.
Yeah, and
That's
that little tube
Yeah.
as they're walking by.
yeah.
Holy smokes. Can you imagine? Isn't that crazy? So I'm not really a fan of SeaWorld, but I'm not here to talk bad about anything. But I just think about this movie that takes place at an amusement park and it's telling you not to go. It's a bad
Yeah.
vibe. It's so crazy that they got away with that movie. And there's an interesting credit too, because it's like at the beginning, it's like inspired by the novel by Peter Benchley. I'm like, the hell kind of credit is that? That's so weird. But I love it.
It's like there's a shark. That's it.
Yeah.
There's a shark.
Totally. And like Dennis Quaid's like a maintenance guy slash fix everything kind of guy. I don't know. He's just a jack of
There's
all
a
trades.
shark and a Brody.
Yeah.
That's like how it was inspired.
Can
Oh,
you
so
imagine that
great.
pitch meeting though? Like all right, so hear us out. We want to have this take place in your theme park. Lots of people are going to die, but it's going to be in your theme park.
Yeah. Get the name out there, man. It's gonna be great. People are gonna come everywhere. And then SeaWorld did eventually make one of those little underwater tubes. It's not as amazing as it is in Jaws 3, but they have this sort of underwater walkway that you get to stroll through. And I'm like, did they see the movie? This is so crazy. This is literally recreating it. We were going to be food. This is terrible.
Uh, well,
Ridiculous.
going back to
You don't want to continue talking about Jaws 3? What's the matter with you?
I mean, we could talk about Jaws 3 all night, but
The preeminent Jaws 3 podcast.
I don't know. I don't know how deeply immersed you are in the world of podcasts, but if there is anything that there is to be said about the splendor that is Jaws 3, it is in the episode of How Did This Get Made, where they
That's
go
true.
where they
We'd
go
be the second best Jaws 3 podcast.
Yeah, that because if you have not listened to How Did This Get Made, Justin, please do yourself a favor and definitely listen to that podcast. It's one of our favorites. But the episode specifically on Jaws 3 is piss your pants funny.
Yeah, it's yeah, because it has the two dudes from the League, right?
Yep, Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas.
Yeah, yeah. I subscribe to it. I haven't listened to it in a while. They go on the road a lot, and I have heard the Jaws 3 episode. I actually heard it on a train, and it's amazing. Absolutely love it.
So there you go. That's a 3-way endorsement for some straight up pee your pants funny
Right.
podcasting.
Yeah, that's actually the first episode of theirs that I ever listened to. And I was just flipping through all the different movies that they were talking about, and I'm like, Jaws 3, oh my god. I mean, I know that whole movie by heart, so it made it even more exciting.
That's a hell of a good one to start with. It really is.
The only problem is it was so good, it's like, now it set the bar pretty high.
They do have some other good ones. I mean, we could go on and on about terrible movies, but why talk about terrible movies when we could talk about amazing toys?
Perfect. Great segue.
So, speaking of all of the different brands and kind of types of toys that you guys represent, it could be a little intimidating getting into some of these brands. So for those that are, maybe collecting, the Marvel Legends, the Star Wars Black Series, kind of like the stuff that you can, the really accessible stuff. How do you get into something like Gunpla or like the SH Figure Arts figures?
Sure, that's a great question, because it can be a bit overwhelming when it comes to Gunpla. I just say, get what you think looks cool. At the end of the day, you're putting together a mobile suit, looks like a giant freaking robot, and the box art on these model kits, do an amazing job of showing off how cool these kits really are. And in the vein of Harry Potter, the wand chooses the wizard. So like when you're at a convention, especially when you're at a convention, you see, if whether it be San Diego Comic Con or New York Comic Con, you walk into our booth and your eyes will just pop out of their sockets from just being surrounded by all the kick-assery. And a model kit's gonna whisper sweet nothings into your ear, and you're gonna be like, Pikachu, I choose you. And then you're like, I gotta have this model kit. So I would probably encourage you to pick up a high grade or maybe even like an SD kit, those little tiny super deformed like 3-inch model kits, just to see if you enjoy it. And keep in mind that there are some tools that would make it easier for you if you had like nippers and files and stuff like that. But none of our hobby kits require paint or glue. So it is worth noting that as you improve your builds or you hone in on your skills, and you want to spruce that goose, and you want to add some touch ups or some panel lining, or whether that bad boy like it just had a lousy day at the work job, that old chestnut. It's just get what you think looks cool. It would be my most sound advice. I don't need you to brush up on 40 years of history of Gundam. just get a mobile suit that you think looks cool as hell and start from there.
And I think that's the thing, right? Because Gundam and and mechs, like they have like this 4-decade-long plus history, and I think that
time for that.
I think it scares some people away. And my brother-in-law, he doesn't collect toys. The only thing he does is Gunpla, and he said it's like one of the most cathartic things ever to just sit there after like a really shitty day and put a Gundam together.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that works for a lot of people. And like sometimes people forget that you can take your time with these things. A lot of people are like, "Oh man, I just I'm gonna put on Lord of the Rings, and by the time it's over, I'm gonna be done with my model. And you don't need to do that. You can. Some people spend months or even years just kind of fine tuning a model kit. They go all out with these crazy dioramas and this weathering and panel lining, and that's great. You do you. There's really no need to compare your model kit versus others. You can be inspired by other kits and hope to be that good one day. But I think at the end of the day, just do what works for you, man. And as for like SHF, it's another thing that's hard to get your hands on too, right? Because some of the stuff isn't available anymore. It's just been a couple of years and it's just not on the market, and the price for those things goes way up. So, I while it's fun to collect everything and have it all, I do think there's a little bit of joy in having that white whale, where there's that figure that just eludes you, that you just want to scour the ends of the earth until you find it. And when you do, it's a pretty remarkable feeling. But so whether it's Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Street Fighter, Marvel, DC, whatever, just get what you think looks cool, man. And SHF come with some really neat accessories and interchangeable hands and faces, and so just have fun with it. But maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Now that that stuff is becoming more accessible, we saw that SHF and the Gundam stuff is got some highly sought after shelf space in Target. So how did that come about?
Oh man, yeah, isn't that crazy? You know, Target guests can just walk over to like either electronics or in the toy aisle, and it's in different places at different stores, but it's in one of those two departments, and you just see Dragon Ball figures. It's crazy that like there's the Dragon Stars from Bandai America, and then there's the SHF from us, and also some hobby kits. I saw Barbados in the Target once. I was like, the hell, when did this get here? And so I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course you have the Gundam universe, and it's definitely an interesting trend at Target. I remember, when Funko Pop showed up a few years back, and even the reaction series. I remember I was a Target manager at the time, and it was like 2014, and I saw Big Trouble in Little China figures on this end cap, and I was floored. I was like, "Are you fucking serious right now? Am I looking at Big Trouble in Little China toys right now? What the hell is going on?" And that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm just like standing there in my red and khaki, like, "Oh my god." And we're seeing like companies like um, NECA and Super Seven, us, Bandai. It's just crazy that I think maybe like just a buyer at Target is just a guy that's or a girl that's just like you and me, and maybe they just have wall to wall shelf space, and they're just like, what, we're gonna this stuff's cool. We're gonna put it in our stores, and people are gonna love it. And so I think at the end of the day, it's just my takeaway is that people just want options when it comes to Gundam and super mega cool stuff, and it's just one of those things where you know maybe your town doesn't have a hobby shop. It's especially if it's a small town. The whole idea of Main Street is just kind of dead, right? And it's really sad that you can't go into Chet's Models and your downtown Main Street because it doesn't exist anymore, because your Amazons and your Targets and your Wally Worlds kind of took over. And so at the end of the day, people still want to buy this stuff. So where are they going to get it? Now they got to go to Target.
Yeah, it was incredible to, and I mean, it's odd because saying that we're toy bloggers and we try to like keep up with the news and see what other people are posting and everything, but it caught us completely off guard. The Target that's closest to me has I'm just gonna call it the Bluefin section,
Right.
uh,
That's cool, right?
literally right next to the Mattel WWE Elite figures. And I'm so used to going down that aisle, because we kind of keep a checklist for each other, like, so that way when Dave's out, he's looking for Star Wars or Marvel Legends stuff for me. If I'm out, I'll look for the WWE stuff for him. And it literally was one of those things where I was like, okay, WWE Elite, wait a second. Is that a that's Goku. Wait, and model kits, and there's nippers here and files, and I was like, wait, what is this? When did this pop up? And like, I guess the guy, in the toy aisle saw me just kind of like having a crisis
Right. Right.
of sorts. And he was like, oh yeah, we just set that up this morning. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
That is rad. Can I ask? So at Target, each little section is a 4-foot section, right? How
Yeah.
many sections of WWE figures were there at that Target?
prior to the
The
addition of
Bluefin.
that section?
Yeah.
2.
Okay, so that's interesting because as soon as you mentioned Target, I immediately went back to when I when I was working there, and there used to be 4 sections. There was 16 feet of wrestling when I started in 2014 at Target, and while I was there, it dwindled down to 3 sections. So 12 feet. That was still a lot of real estate. And the thing is, it was always full of product. And what's interesting about that is that when it's full, it's not selling.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad. And when you see that, you're like, oh wow, it's well stocked. You're like, yeah, it's well stocked because no one's buying it. And there's that moment, in the team members' day when they go and they put the stuff on the shelf and it looks all pretty, and then over the course of the next few hours, it dwindles and then it has to be restocked again. Problem with the WWE stuff is it got set and then that was it. No one was buying anything anymore. And so I just, as you were telling me, it was right next to that. The little gears in my brain there, just like, oh my god, did they lose another 4 feet of wrestling toys? It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, so in that aisle in this particular Target, um it's basically the end of the aisle. So they're now the wrestling figures are now sandwiched between you and Star Wars.
Cool. It's
But
good company to
it's
be with.
yeah, for sure. But it's really cool because you can one of the things that I like to do, and it kind of sounds a little creepy, but like I like to kind of just hang out in the toy aisle while I'm taking pictures for for Instagram and everything, and see like the parents with their kids. And I grew up, with Toonami and watching Dragon Ball Z after school, like the whole saga, the Frieza saga, as long as it was dragged out, and all,
Yeah.
all like, I'm gonna give
Yeah.
you 5 more minutes to live. 3 episodes later,
Right. Then you got the Titanic lady, like, I've been waiting here for 82 years or whatever.
exactly. But it's still great that like all these years later, like the other day I saw a dad and his son, and he was like, "Oh look, it's Goku," and I was like like quietly to myself as I was looking at my Star Wars stuff. I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, that's cool. My first exposure to Dragon Ball was this Super Famicom game that my buddy let me borrow. He had just his father was in Japan and they got stationed out where we lived, and so he brought all of his cool stuff from Japan with him, and one of them was this Dragon Ball Z game. This is like 1993 or 94, and I'm playing this game. It's all in Japanese. I don't understand a word. I can't read it. I just kind of figured out the buttons and everything. And then when Toonami was a thing, and I see this cartoon, I'm like, man, where have I seen this before? And then I realized, I'm like, oh my god, light bulb! This is that crazy game that I was trying to figure out how to play. I still have it too. He let me keep it.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
that's a
that's cool.
classic.
Yeah,
That's a
I'll send you
classic.
guys a picture when we're done. I gotta dig it up, but I know exactly where it is.
So switching gears from Dragon Ball, and the well, I mean, I guess kind of in the same realm, but we talked a little bit about Gundam, and you mentioned Gundam Universe, and Wave 3 of Gundam Universe hit over the summer, and so far 3 waves, people have been super excited about it. Wave 4, it looks like there's been two figures announced so far.
Yeah.
Um, how did the 40 plus year old franchise that has been famous for model kits transition into the world of really just kind of action figures?
Yeah. Well, that's another good question. So, some people, you know, model kits, while they're cool as hell, aren't for everyone. And some folks, just don't have the time to build them, or maybe they lack the confidence, or they didn't even give it a try, or maybe they just have zero interest altogether in model kits, right? And that's fine too. But, turn that model kit into a figure, and you're ready right out of the package, and you have just renewed interest in Gundams again. And maybe they love like maybe they love Gundam Wing 20 years ago on Toonami, and now they have a chance to have a Wing Zero or a Death Scythe or Tall Geese. That's in the Wave 4 that you just mentioned,
Mhm.
and it's a game changer for that collector. And ultimately, I think my takeaway is that just people just want options, and they think Gundams are super mega cool, and maybe they have zero interest in building one, but you just take it out of the package and play with a new bathtub toy for $25 and you're good to go, man. I mean, like Gundams are the rubber ducky of 2020. In case you didn't know
I mean, I feel like that needs to be on a bumper sticker now.
that, right? Put it on the package.
We are the rubber duckies of 2020.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, it's like the book jacket quote.
There you go. You can have that.
The rubber duckies of 2020. Justin Cavender, Bluefin.
Oh, and it's Cavender, by the way. I should have said that before we started.
Oh, come on, man! I've been
If you
saying it
want to
wrong for
re-record
like.
your intro.
Nope, we're gonna grow and learn together. That's
Sure. I always say Justin Cavender, like lavender, but with the C.
Ah, see, I like that.
Yeah.
I love lavender. I have lavender bushes in the front of my house.
Oh, there you go. I walked in a lavender field once. It was majestic.
Now I'm gonna call them Cavender bushes.
There you go. Easy peasy.
Yeah, but you know, we're seeing that trend kind of across toys right now, where like stuff that has been, you know, typically a puzzle or a model kit, you know, that kind of origin toy becoming like action figures, because now Transformers are even doing it, right? You know, they have those Transformers Red figures, so it's like just kind of everybody is kind of geared towards the action figure specific community, and I just think it's
Yeah.
super interesting to take these giant mechs and turn them into accessible 6-inch action figures. I mean, it's great.
Have you, speaking of Transformers, Red? Have you seen those out in the wild yet?
I
I
have
saw them popping up on social media. I'm like, what the fuck?
I I have not seen them in person yet. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I've not seen any of those yet.
I did watch a very scathing review of them.
Oh yeah, who did the review?
Member of the community, Shardimus Prime.
Oh okay,
Um,
yeah.
He's it was actually I thought it was a little uncharacteristic of him, to be honest. He's usually pretty positive. Like he'll definitely have things that he not picks on. That's not fair. Things that he provides critique on, which is totally
That's
fine.
fair.
Everyone,
Yeah.
yeah. But
What
like
we're here
this was
for,
like
right?
this was rough.
That's too bad.
And honestly, I think they look really cool, because it's again the same thing. You know, sometimes you just want an Optimus Prime that, like, when you try to photograph him and you try to get him into a certain pose on your shelf, that like he's not exposing the process. Like, you just want
Right.
it to look
That's
like,
what I was trying to say. With the Studio Series, you don't really see that, but with like the War for Cybertron stuff and the Gen 1 stuff, you totally see like the joints and the screws and that gaping hole that arm is eventually going to be tucked away in. You're like,
yeah.
and it complicates things.
And I mean, the Transformers, I mean, and model kits, they're feats of engineering. You know, it's reverse engineering at its finest, right? You
Sure.
know, the fact that those things go together the way that they do, and then the fact that they move after you put them together
Yeah.
is it's incredible. But at the same time, there are benefits and engineering things that you can kind of skirt around. And ultimately it goes back to this, and this is the way that I always kind of look at stuff like this: is why do you have to piss in somebody else's Cheerios, right?
Right.
Like, if you want a transformer that transforms, or you want to sit and you want to build a model kit, guess what? You can do that. And just because of the fact that you now have an action figure form of that, where you don't have to build the model kit, and the person that just wants to pose it, take really cool photos, put it on their shelf, like, it's not eating into your pie. It's just a new thing.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, you can kind of get in at your own pace, as it were. You don't have to build or unbuild Optimus Prime. He could just be there.
Right. Dude, I know exactly what you mean. Like, as soon as I transform a figure, that's it. I don't touch it ever again, because I don't want to figure it out. I am such an idiot when it comes to transforming some of these guys. Like the Masterpiece Bumblebee, that shit took me like 3 hours to do. And I'm looking at these instructions like, these don't work. This is the worst instructions ever. And so I have, since that one figure has made me just go online and watch sort of the step-by-step video process, and that is 1,000 times easier than following the instructions that come packaged with these figures.
So, fun story. I feel your pain. My mother-in-law happened to be in Florida a couple weeks ago, and right now the masterpiece, oh man, which not I can't think. All of a sudden, I just forgot the name of the figure. One of the masterpiece film figures is hitting Ross for less, down
Oh yeah, it was
in
like the
like
Ironhide one, right?
Ironhide. Yep,
Yeah.
that was the one.
Yeah.
And she was able to find one there for me for like $20, and I was like, "This is
Nice.
awesome! I've never had one of the masterpiece figures. I'm like really excited." She brought it up, and it took me it took me an entire football game on a Sunday
Yeah, I believe
to
it, man.
to get him just to the truck form, and then I was like, "You know what? This is work for another day."
Yeah,
So
no,
there
it's
he's
hardcore. He looks great though when he's a robot.
oh man, it's
So
such a
I mean,
good
he looked
figure.
like he would photograph really well because he's like literally so dark, so black, and then the silver just pops on his face, you know. And
Yeah.
I have had him in my cart on Amazon for like months, and I can't ever do it. Now he's down to like $65, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do it. I don't know, but I've talked myself out of it.
I will tell you, having no other pieces of the masterpiece collection, he is probably my favorite Transformer right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
No, that's great.
Speaking of other new things that are coming,
More Transformers.
more
Yeah.
Transformers. No, um,
More
we
Jaws?
mentioned
Another Jaws? Are you kidding me? Jaws 5? Let's do it.
Jaws, Jaws the Revenge.
Well,
No,
This time
that was
they had
4.
that already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jaws the Revenge, the Revenge.
the Revenge,
Yeah.
the
This time
Revenge.
it's really, really, really personal.
We're getting Michael Caine back for it too.
Yeah. Can you imagine how cool would that be?
Oh my god.
He's
You know
on
what?
his little floaty Gundam taking on freaking sharks. Now we're talking.
I have bombs the size of tangerines.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
the no, we talked a little bit about Monster Hunter before, which has become, you know, a massively popular franchise. There's a movie on the way with Mila Jovovich in it. And
You
there
got
was
her last name right, but you can't get my last name right?
I'm never gonna get it wrong again.
The audacity.
So tell us about what we can expect from the Monster Hunter figures coming to the SH Monster Arts line.
Oh man, these now we're talking. So I think Monster Hunter is so freaking cool. I'm terrible at the game. My friends have to carry me like all the way through it because I just suck. But these figures are incredible, and I'm so excited about this figure line. So far, we have the Nargacuga and the Rathalos, and those of you familiar with the game will recognize Rathalos right away. He's practically the face of Monster Hunter,
Yep.
and he's absolutely huge. Like his wingspan, dude, is 15 inches. It's incredible. He's a big boy. You got to make a lot of room on his shelf for that guy. And Nargacuga should be in stores now. And then Rathalos will hit this month. This is November, yeah. So yeah, it'll hit this month. And we actually just revealed the third monster tonight during the Tamashii Nations event that's going on right now.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
it
right.
is
That started today. I forgot.
yeah, I was like just literally watching a presentation, and then I just started tweeting everything as soon as it went live at 5 o'clock. I was like, oh my god, we gotta share this, share this, share this. And first thing I did was Monster Hunter, personal bias. But yeah, we revealed Zen Ogre, which is pretty cool, and he looks dynamite.
Monster toys, like in general, like monsters are always the most fun. Like big ass dragons, giant snake things, like anything that's monstrous is always, you know, ends up being the most toyetic. So I was excited when you know, when I'd read the announcement that was coming to the Tamashii Nations line. It's just they look so fucking cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
and
pretty badass.
monsters are cool.
They are. They're incredible. Like King Kong is like one of my favorite monsters. And I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Kong Skull Island, but I freaking love that movie, dude. I think it's so freaking cool. That shot when they're like on the helicopters and he's standing there and the sun's like his background light and everything. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, it's you know, speaking of Kong, I mean, you guys are now doing Godzilla again. You know, originally
Mhm.
it had been with NECA for a while. And with that movie coming out eventually, maybe the King Kong versus Godzilla. You know, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of additional monsters that we
Yeah,
can expect.
does NECA didn't they make Kong versus Godzilla figures?
They made a King Kong figure that's kind of like one of the head sculpts is like the 1933 looking King Kong, and then the other
Oh
one is
yeah,
like a Skull Island looking King Kong.
gotcha.
And they did make Godzilla figures from the most recent Godzilla
From
film.
King of the Monsters, right?
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
but they have not explicitly made
Which we
a
also have a Godzilla King of the Monsters.
yeah. Yeah, they did not explicitly make stuff for the I think the King Kong versus Godzilla stuff that's kind of like floating around out there. I want to say it's like it might be Playmates might be making it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it is Playmates. Yeah, it's Playmates.
in terms
I
of
just
like,
looked it up. You're 100% correct. It is Playmates. They made Dick
I was gonna
Tracy toys, you know.
I'm my not to go completely off the rails here again, but I'm currently obsessing over my latest acquisition, which is the Playmates Billie Eilish action figure,
Oh my goodness.
and it
I-
is talk about a wingspan. This thing also has and yes, I mean actual wings. It's probably about 15 inches
oh my
from
gosh.
tip to tip. The wing. Yeah. If we're going to be doing a review of this soon. I just took a bunch of pictures of it. It is a shockingly good action figure.
Sweet.
Like shockingly good. But yeah.
You know what I just got into is the I'm so late to the party. I was tweeting this last night that the Predator figures that NECA makes.
Oh yeah.
They are so badass, dude. Like I've always looked at them, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, like, it's kind of monster you could tap your foot to. You know, it looks pretty badass. And then I never really got them, but then last night, I was at Target and I saw like this alpha predator guy that just looked so badass. He had like all these like crazy teeth and tusks and like this squid helmet thing, and I was like, all right, I'm totally buying this.
I
Just went
think
a little crazy. I was like, that's it. I can't take it anymore. This shit's too cool. I gotta buy it.
I think that might be their 100th
It is.
predator. Their 100th
Yeah.
variant of a predator, which is that alone that alone is kind of insane to think about. They made 100 different predators.
Yeah. That
It's
is
like
a lot.
I've like avoided the aliens and the horror characters because it's just it's potato chips. Like you can't stop at one.
I know. Isn't that nuts? Do you remember that commercial where it challenges you? Like, I bet you can only eat just one or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. Yeah, it was the Alpha Predator, man. And I was just like, oh my God, I need this. Remember, have you guys seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when Uncle Rico goes to the house and he's trying to sell the bowls and he whips out that sail ship in the bottle and the wife's like, I want that. Like I saw this alpha predator and I literally said that out loud, like, I want that. I just picked it up. I'm like, I'm buying this. I don't care. I'm putting it in my basket. I'm buying it. That's all there is to it. And then I looked around and I saw that the Predator 2 Ultimate Armored Lost Predator, and I thought he looked pretty badass too. He's got like this LED helmet and everything. So I was like, fine, I'll get this one too. And so today, in between social messaging posts and writing press releases, I'm like just scouring the internet for all these cool Predator toys. I'm like,
Well,
okay, well now I need the Lost Tribe, so this is what I gotta do. And I'm looking everywhere, and it's so ridiculous how you just go down the rabbit hole. And that's the coolest thing about toys and collecting is just going down the rabbit hole, man.
yeah, and I mean we talk about it all the time on the show is kind of setting up guardrails for ourselves, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'm going to get this one figure, but if I get this figure, kind of need this one too cuz like
Right?
otherwise it doesn't display right.
Yep.
I know. It's
It does. It's there's always a second one, and then when you get that second one, there's a third, and then there's 50.
I know.
Yeah.
I already bought so today, guys, less than 24 hours after I bought these other figures, I got the arcade versions of like that sort of purple predator and then the arcade xenomorph. So I can pose them together. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, let me tell you, if you cruise through Walmart right now, in that new collectibles section that Walmart's starting to put up, they have the reissue of like the OG Predator from the first film.
Nice. That jungle one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
I have that guy.
Oh my god.
It's the one I
See?
have.
They're so freaking cool, man. It's so badass. And you know what's interesting about Predator 2 is like, Predator gets all the love, and that's great. It's an awesome movie. And I think it's incredible. Love the music, love the pacing, love everything about it. But Predator 2, like, really up the ante, man. It's like hardcore violent. They shoot a billion bullets in the first 5 minutes of the movie. He's got that super mega disc of death. There's just a lot going on in Predator 2. And I think people just kind of forget how cool it is. And Gary Busey wasn't quite crazy yet when that movie came out.
Not to mention when you look at the two of those movies, right? You have like the Predator in the first film has like worthy opponents, right? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger is like basically the human equivalent.
Right.
In number two, he's getting bested by Danny fucking Glover. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's this cop that's seen and done it all, right? So
yeah,
he's using his wits
he's getting too
to
old for this shit.
yeah, exactly. Cue the saxophone music. Yeah, now we're talking. Oh, you guys are great. I could talk toys all day long. Hey, we can get back to Bluefin stuff too if you like. I apologize.
Well, yeah, Dave, why don't you bring up one of your favorite toys of the year?
I think so. It was definitely something that I saw that I was like, okay, I need this. It was the Jushin Thunder Liger figure. We've seen a couple different versions. I know there was the Ringside Collectibles one that was in black and gold. There was the blue and white one. There's been another one that's kind of more, I guess, the retirement tour Liger.
Right.
Are there any more additional versions in the pipeline, or even bringing any other wrestlers, legendary wrestlers, aboard?
So I like where your head's at. But I don't have anything to share with you right now. Storm Collectibles has some incredible figures and some really unique licenses, and I wouldn't put it past them, to say the least. However, they're making tremendous strides with video game properties right now, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Injustice, Samurai Showdown, King of Fighters, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and now Darkstalkers, for crying out loud. So they kind of have a lot going on right there, and so they haven't let me know anything about any upcoming wrestling stuff, but I wouldn't put it past them. And I mean, for the record, I would love a Ravishing Rick Rude figure. That's my guy. And since you guys love wrestling so much, that he was my bread and butter, man. Him and Perfect, those are my two favorite guys of all time for wrestling.
Nice. Yeah, that's I mean, that takes me back long time. Like one of the first shows I went to, Ravishing Rick Rude was on it. In the Meadowlands in like the mid 80s. But yeah, there've been some fantastic, like there's a great Mattel Rick Rude that just came out recently.
I saw that. Oh my gosh. And I need to get that. I mean, I liked like your Ultimate Warriors, even though he's like terrible, but he was fun at the same time. Like he's like the worst wrestler ever, dude. Fucking guy. But I mean, he got the crowd pumped, right? I mean, I remember being like 10 years old and be like, "Oh my god, he's not making any sense, but I love him." And so I'm like, I remember looking at my dad, like, "What is he talking about?" My dad's like, "I don't know, dude. Just watch it." Something about a cockpit and taking a plane down. He's a terrorist. I don't know what's going on. He's a weirdo.
He's just shaking the ropes and throwing people around. It's fine. Just go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was one of my faves too. But like Bret Hart, oh my god, I don't know. I think we've all any wrestling fan, has had those matches where it was just heartbreaking, and where you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe that this just happened. And for me, it was when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had to fight for an hour, and then it was tied, and then Bret Hart walks away, and then Roddy Piper's like, "Oh, there must be a winner," and he's got to go back in. And he gets kicked in the face like 8 seconds later and loses. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hate wrestling. I remember being so mad. I mean, I didn't like throw a fit or break any windows or anything like that, but I was just like, did you ever see the movie Ready to Rumble?
Oh yeah.
Like crying in the car on the way back, like stupid Diamond Dallas Page allergies. Like that's totally where I was at mentally. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is the worst day ever. I hate wrestling. Everything is ruined. And then that was my moment, man, where I was just so devastated. And it's so crazy that something like that can happen. This metamorphosis takes place. There's always those people like, oh, wrestling's fake and blah blah blah. But when you get passionate about a character and you love them to death, and there's an opportunity to have a freaking action figure for them, that's just so cool.
Well, that and it's the performance aspect of it too that
Oh,
just kind
sure.
of pulls you in.
Heck yeah, man. I could watch all that stuff. When uh, WWE launched their little network, first thing I did was watch like every old wrestling event that ever happened. I was like, oh
Yep.
man, now we're along for the ride. I don't care about the new shit right now. I want to go back, 20 years and see what, relive the old teenager Justin years or the preteen years. I remember being when King Kong Bundy crushed Hulk Hogan's ribs, and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, that sucks so
Yeah,
bad.
I remember that too. Right before WrestleMania 2, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, then they get the cage match going. Oh my
Mhm.
god, those are the days.
Well, that's the great thing about toys in general, right? Because like whether you're talking about wrestling or an anime or a film or a TV show or even like other athletic stuff. Like I have sports figures from
Sure,
the teams that I like. You can kind of take these moments that you have this emotional tie to and kind of have a semi-permanent thing that represents that feeling, that emotion, that moment. And eh, there's just so many different ways that you could slice that. It's so cool to be able to look at all of it.
Yeah, you could totally like recreate kind of, your history in this form.
sure. Especially now that they come with like so many different hand options and face options. Before, you remember those old wrestling figures where they just had like one little gimmick where you could push them down, then they would hop up, or they could body slam somebody. Just they didn't do a whole lot.
Well,
Now,
the LJN ones, when like the first figures I had, they just had the one pose.
yeah, exactly, right? They just stood there. You're like, "Okay, thanks, dude." But, you got it and you loved it, you didn't care. You're like your parents like, "You can take one toy to dinner," and you're like, "Alright, I got fucking Marty Jannetty in my hands right now." How cool is that? He's got a sweet ass mullet.
Mario Jannetty's gonna hop into my mashed potatoes.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was really cool, and so, like, now it's like, you get a figure and it comes with 10,000 accessories and hands and faces, and you're like, "Shit, I can't lose any of this crap."
And that was kind of the beautiful thing with the Liger was that it had the cape and it had the wire in the cape and you could kind of make it flow. He could pose. It had the really cool torso. I
Yeah.
mean, that just for me, it was kind of mind blowingly good.
Oh, it's incredible. And if you look at there's some incredible photo galleries that people did with that figure that it's like, is this the real dude? Am I looking
Mhm.
at a figure? Am I looking at a toy right now? Like, what's going on? People go all out with their dioramas. And
Yeah,
I'm so jealous. I love that stuff.
it was funny when we unboxed that one.
That was our first unboxing.
Oh,
That
nice.
was it? Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was.
that was our first ever
Um,
unboxing.
and I immediately brought like a Brian Pillman with me because I was like, okay, I want to recreate some of the stuff that from that old WCW match, and we were able to do it and took a few pictures of it. Um, yeah, Eric, we should send those over to Justin.
Yeah, well, we were actually able to do most of them without the use of like flight stands and stuff
Hmm.
because of the articulation and like the
Right.
center of gravity. It really is it as shitty as 2020 has been a year in in general. It is a fine time to be an action figure collector because the
For
Right.
sure.
stuff is like better than it has ever been. Like
There's amazing stuff coming from so many
yeah.
places.
Oh, I know, dude. I check Hasbro Pulse like every goddamn day. You never know with those people. They're always just throwing new shit on their website. So I'm just constantly checking Hasbro.
Well, I mean, you're talk we talked before about, grabbing like an old gem. My favorite SH Figure Arts figure, and this might sound insane, is the Michael Jackson Moonwalker figure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great.
Talk about accessories. The fact that he comes with like a shadow stand that lets him do the full like lean. Like, I mean, come on. It's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I tried that lean once and I almost lost like 18 teeth. It was bad.
Yeah, I don't. You have to be a very specific type of human to be able to pull that off, and very
Yeah,
few of us are on that level.
yeah. I'm about a deuce and a half, and it doesn't work out so well.
So, speaking of kind of like these dream moments, right? You know, capturing these feelings, these emotions that we've had over the years, you know, throughout culture and the things that we love. With all of the different brands and all of the different types of toys that, you know, fall under your umbrella, what would be like the one thing you would love to see? Like this company making this figure.
Oh man, I would I would die if I got King of the Hill figures, dude. Like that's what I want more than anything is like a King of the Hill SHF. I think that would be so badass. I would get the whole crew and it would be amazing. And I would just stare at it and it would be incredible. And I would find my happy place with my King of the Hill SHF. But that being said, I'm also a gamer, so like I would also really like Halo figures or World of Warcraft or even Dark Souls. Can you imagine like SH arts or SH monster arts of like bosses from Dark Souls? I mean, that
Oh
would be
my
so bad.
god.
That
I'd,
that would be cool.
I'd be like, oh my god, and like stroke out. So I mean, there's so many cool things, but for me personally, King of the Hill would be it. I could die a happy man.
That would be amazing. Like, and I'm already picturing the way that it would work with like the face tiles where you could have like frightened Hank and
Right?
like stern Hank.
Yeah. Disgruntled Hank. Yeah,
People trying to recreate the opening credits.
Oh my
totally.
god. And with the
Um,
level of articulation, you could totally do like a stop motion thing with them where you just build a
Hmm.
nice little like fence dio and
Totally, and just them
have them in
drinking
front of
and
it.
keep adding the beer cans and everyone else kinda going around and doing their thing. Yeah, that's
Oh my
great.
god. Well, speaking of SHF, we did post an Instagram story up to to our listeners, and we asked them, you know, across all the brands, there, you know, did you have any questions? And I have to say that probably 99% of them were questions for first of all, they were all Dragon Ball Z questions, all of
No
them.
Jaws questions? Are you kidding
No
me?
J no Jaws questions, can you imagine? Um, they were all Dragon Ball Z questions, and I know we're not gonna get into the minutia of, like, "Why haven't you made Krillin? Where's this figure? Where's that figure?" We're not gonna do it. We all know that we're not gonna be able to get answers, but, um
I'll have you know I have all those answers in a briefcase that is handcuffed to my wrist right now.
what I will say is, though, the majority of what people I think are getting at are we live now, especially in this toy world, in a world that's so connected, right? Where you have all these companies that are doing these virtual events, and they're showing a level of transparency that companies really haven't prior to this year. You know, with all of these kind of touch points and interactions that are more widely available. Um, do you think there would ever be a consideration for things like fan polls or for surveys or for kind of ways for fans of the brands to kind of interact with them in a way to say like, hey, fan choice polls work really well, would you guys like this figure, this figure, and vote? Or even just something as simple as a survey where people could fill it out. Is that something that you ever would ever see as a possibility for any of these brands?
Absolutely. In fact, we do surveys at every trade show we go to, which is really great. It's usually tied to some sort of giveaway or whatever. But we always like to give surveys because we're really big on feedback. And one of my jobs, I'm like community manager basically, and so I'm reading everyone's tweets and Instagram posts and Facebook posts. Even when I'm in bed at like 2 in the morning, I'm responding to people on Twitter because community engagement is very important to me and I want to know what you're excited about. I want to know what you're frustrated about, and I share that information. It doesn't it doesn't fall on deaf ears. Like I mean, I literally it is my job to relay feedback from the consumer to Japan and to Tamashi and it's great and it's a lot of feedback. But I mean, you have to remember um, there's there's only so much you can do. There's licensing issues. There's production issues. There's a lot that goes on into making a figure, and it's not just a matter of type in this name here, hit enter, or control P, and then just start printing figures. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot that's involved, and I can tell you right now that I would love for everyone to get every single figure that they ever wanted, and it's a process. It really is, and it's a slow process, but at the end of the day, I think it's important to know that if you've ever tweeted at Bluefin Brands or messaged me in some way, I saw your message. I try to like them all and I try to respond to all of them, but there's just some stuff I can't tell you. You can't just ask me, hey, when are we going to get this, and then me be able to say, oh yeah, you're going to get that on June 14th, 2022 or whatever like that. Just it doesn't work that way. I don't have that information, so um, I just want your listeners to trust that I do everything I can to get your message across to the right people on a weekly basis, mind you.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, I think that answers the question, though. If there is enough fervor for a character, I mean, it's basically free market research, right?
Right.
like,
No,
like
absolutely.
you know what your audience is looking for. So,
And on in that same vein, let's just say that I post like the most sought after figure ever. Like let's just say that like Freeze first form Frieza, right? Everyone's been clamoring for that for a while. We posted an image of that, and then the very first post is like, when are we gonna get this? When are we gonna get that? Yes, but when are we gonna get this? And you're just like, oh, dude, just enjoy that you're getting this one for right now. Just 5 seconds. That's
oh
all it takes.
man.
Just bask in the ambiance. Like love it for a second. But it's always okay, that's great. But when are we gonna get this? And like I feel you, man. I mean, I'm passionate about a lot of things. And I want stuff too. And I think seeing this side of the business, it's been real eye-opening for me because for so long I was just someone that like your Instagram stories where you run to the store, do some toy hunting and see what's going on, what's on the shelf, what's exciting. Maybe even seeing that chase figure. That's one per case or something like that, and it's like, shit, should I buy this or should I leave it for someone that actually wants it? I've asked myself those questions, but I mean, seeing this side of the business has been just a truly remarkable and eye opening experience. So many things that I had never considered before are roadblocks and hurdles. And there's a it's a long way from Japan to the United States, and there's a lot of red tape that separates the two. And it's a process, just to get a license to distribute something here in the United States. And so it's just one of those things, and it's a group effort, and it takes a lot of meetings and a lot of projections and forecasts and what have yous to make it happen.
Well, there you go. So, the message then there is continue to be vocal and that you're listening, and I think that's the most important thing. It's brands sometimes seem like they are impenetrable. That there are these bigger, larger than life entities that are not listening, and it's all about the bottom line and everything. But that's why it's important to have. We love having people like you on the show because it shows that, like, yes, there are actual human beings that exist
Right.
that work for said entity that are fucking listening. So, like,
Yeah.
just you know ha-
And
be
they are
patient.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I trust me. I am trying really hard to be your champion and make everything happen for you. And we did a live stream not so long ago, and David, who's he's like the senior marketing manager, and just out of nowhere, he's like, he's like, Justin and AJ, they run the social channels, and they're listening to everything that you say, and they're your champions. I had no idea he was going to say that, and I'm just like, oh man, and like I could just feel this tonal shift on social media where I wasn't getting yelled at as much anymore. I'm just like, shit, dude, I'm trying, man. I'm doing everything I can to make this happen for you, and it's going a long way. It's crazy. Like once someone realizes that I'm not just posting pictures and making a statement, and I'm actually interacting with you and having a good time, and we're sharing collections and stuff like that. It really goes a long way. And I've tried so hard to just build an awesome community because there's so many passionate collectors out there, and I get it. We all get upset and we all get mad, and there's exclusives that maybe you didn't get your hands on, or I've been that same guy using the Target app to try and get something that's a pre-order that I sold out in like 8 seconds. And, I've been on that end and I know how frustrating it is. But, something like San Diego, you guys remember when San Diego Comic-Con happened and there was just all these digital events, everyone was doing their own thing. Funko was doing their exclusives and NECA was doing their exclusives and we were doing our exclusives, and everyone was just selling out in 2 seconds, and then people were getting mad. They're blaming bots, and I can tell you right now, there isn't a website in the world that can handle everyone in America all clicking refresh and buy, add to cart. It's just not in the cards. There isn't a single website that can handle that. And everyone was learning. It's a learning curve. No one had to do these digital events before. And when you go at a show to, let's say, like San Diego Comic-Con in New York, where there's 150,000 people there might only be 500 people in your line at your booth, and you have 4 registers. Now all of a sudden you have to have 30,000 registers, and they all have to be working at once, and that's just not in the cards. There's a reason why there's capacity issues at these shows, because only so many people can fit. When you turn it into a digital space, now all of a sudden, instead of having 500 customers, you have 50,000 customers or something like that, and it's a game changer, and it's a learning curve, and we're all trying to get better at it. But I feel terrible that you didn't get your figure, that the website crashed, or whatever the case may be. I was reading the comments section on a NECA feed during San Diego Comic Con, and I'm just like, oh, my heart breaks for you, social media manager. It
Yeah.
was so sad. I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, man. Don't let it get to you.
We all have. We're all. I shouldn't say we all, but we have memories like goldfish, right? People don't remember even just last year the fact that an exclusive meant that company X brought Y amount of figure to the show, and if you were Dave and Eric sitting at home in New Jersey during San Diego Comic-Con, you didn't even have a chance because you weren't in the building. And like
Right.
everyone was okay with it then. And if there happened to be any left, sometimes like the next a week or two later, it would go up on a website, right? If there was any, additional stock. But like nobody was mad about it then.
Right.
Well, it's the
Mhm.
same process this year. It's just everyone the
Everyone
swimming
could go.
the swimming hole has not changed size, but the amount of patrons has grown
Right.
exponentially.
Yeah, and it's tricky, man. And it's frustrating for everyone. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, of course, no one wants the poor guy or girl that's running the NECA social media is devastated that this isn't working out. Like there's times where I just lose sleep over something because a process wasn't done correctly, or a website crashed or something like that. Because it's like, I want to fight for you guys to get your stuff, and there's only so much I can do. Like, again, it's just one of those things. Like, I was trying to pre-order a next gen console, right, just last month. Everyone was trying to get a PS5, right, and that
Mhm.
was a nightmare for everyone. And Sony didn't. They had their guidelines of when their pre-orders were going to go up, but then certain retailers decided, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and do it now. We're cool. And so everyone's like freaking out. They're losing stuff in their cart. It's not working, and everyone's getting mad and crazy. And then guess what? Like, the next day, we all just went on with our lives. So it's like, once you have that cathartic experience that it's gonna be okay, then it's everything else is gravy. But it is crazy how in the heat of the moment, like we all live like in the now, right? We're just like, shit, I want this PS5. I gotta get it. I want it right now. Gimme, 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 gimme. What do you mean it's not working? Or how come this error is happening? And I'm gonna throw my phone. I'm gonna be upset. I'm gonna write a letter, and I'm gonna go to the nearest internet and complain, and then blah blah blah, right? And so it's heartbreaking for all of us. So I mean, just at the end of the day, know that I read your comments, the positive and the negative. I take them both, and I take them to the people that need them, and I'm here for you. Is what I'm getting at.
All right. Awesome. So you heard it, everybody. You're heard.
Right.
Um well, before we let you go, we have our one question that we ask everybody. It's our James Lipton question.
Sure.
So we always like to ask everybody, either or both, what is the most prized piece of your collection, and what's the weirdest thing you have?
Ooh. Okay. How weird? Like, how weird? Like, if I die and my relatives have to open up a chest and jaws are gonna drop, or just like weird toys that I have.
I mean,
How weird do we want to get?
let's say the weirdest toy in your collection,
Okay.
and your most prized toy.
Got it.
We'll keep it to toys. You know,
We'll keep it to
Just making
toys.
yeah.
sure.
You don't need
No
to talk about those pictures you
discrete
took that one time.
packages. Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Just making sure. Let's see here. Honestly, I think one of my favorite things that I actually own is actually my Mortal Kombat 1-Up machine. It's something that it's not a toy per se, but I play it, so I'm counting that as a toy.
Video
And
games are toys too, man. They're
there you
toys
go.
too.
That counts.
I remember when I was like 12 years old and I walked into a 7-Eleven, there was this arcade machine for Mortal Kombat, and I watched this guy play, and he was Sub-Zero, and he ripped off Johnny Cage's head with the spine attached, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it just became a dream to own a Mortal Kombat machine. And when Arcade 1-Up made them, I was like, baby, I've never used the term non-negotiable before, but I'm getting one of these machines. And I got it, and coincidentally she was out of town, but I had permission to get it. Just throwing that out there. But I put it together, and I freaking played all night long. It's right here in my little game room, and I love it to death. And that is probably my most prized possession. And as far as something weird goes, it's not a toy per se, but I have a Plague Doctor mask. If you guys are familiar with those ones with like the beaks,
Yeah.
Hmm.
they're pretty cool. I got that prior, like a couple Christmases ago. I opened it up, I was like, "What the fuck?" But I love it to death. Absolutely love it. And I don't like really wear it or anything, but I have it, and it's cool, and it's weird, and it's kind of a conversation piece.
Hey,
But
listen, masks are necessary in public
right,
now. So if you want to roll out with your Plague Doctor mask, I think
there you
now
go.
is the time to do it, man. I
It's
mean, live your best life
right.
and
I know,
scare the
right? It's
shit
not a
out of
political
everybody.
statement. It's a mask. Give me a break.
But
I
you
know.
also have to wear like the hat with it too, and like
I
the hood.
know.
So like you
So
gotta if
badass.
you're gonna do it, you have to really
Go
You have to
all out.
do it.
you gotta
Yeah,
go
I
all
know.
in.
I know, man. Problem is, it's all black and it gets hot over here. Southern California doesn't believe in winter. It's
That's
just
true.
always warm. It was like
It's
118 when I got in my car like a couple weeks ago. It's like,
ugh,
geez, oh,
ugh.
that's warm. I grew up in the desert, and I get it, man. It gets hot, but like 118, that's like Mad Max Fury Road shit, dude. Like people start to go crazy when it gets that hot. You gotta be careful.
Yeah, you stand too still on blacktop at 118, your shoes might melt.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad news bears, dude. I don't like it. Oh, you know what though? Can I just add something really quick?
Absolutely.
When at the beginning you had asked me what I was most excited about, and right
And
away
Jaws 3 is the answer.
that is one of the answers. That's part one of a two-part answer. The other thing that I was really excited about is that 66 Batman Deluxe box set from Mezco. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Hmm.
5 points.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. That's like a dream come true for me too, man. I can't wait to get that. I had pre-ordered it and I'm very excited about it. It's like 7 figures, and then you get like the Batmobile and the Bat Cave and Wayne Manor diorama. And it's like that is that's that's gonna make my year next year. I'm so excited for that. Like it's my favorite Batmobile, it's my favorite Batman, and now I get to play with it, and I'm so excited. And better half's gonna be like, checking on me, and I'm like, leave me alone, I'm playing with my friends. So I'm really excited about it.
If I had not gone like full on cannonball into the world of the 4-inch Spin Master Batman figures that are out now, including the
Yeah,
3-level Batcave slash Gotham City Street Dio,
sure.
I would have gone in on that for sure. 100%. It was like for
It's
me, it was
so
like I'm already shoulder deep. I just I couldn't do it. I could
yeah,
not do it.
I can appreciate that. And now I'm going down this stupid predator rabbit hole. I can't. I
Oh
can't.
boy.
I gotta step away. I need to like just unplug from my phone and from the internet and just kind of mellow out and play with my Transformers. Because if I just keep seeing all this cool shit pop up, you guys are talking about this is the year for toys, man. It really is. I've never bought so many things in my life in the course of like 9 months. It has been nuts, and maybe it's just because I'm a little stir crazy from like working from home, so it's become like my outlet. But I just feel like I have collected so much crap in the last like 9 months, and I'm eating it up. I love every second of it.
Oh yeah. You know how you get those
Yeah.
on social media, you get those pictures, right, where it's like you took this picture a year ago. It was a picture of my Marvel Legends cube, like the little like cube storage space that I have my display in, and it was like maybe like 10 figures, and now we're just not going to talk about.
Well, you're caught up at least, I'd say,
I mean,
to any movies that haven't come out yet.
fact,
Oh man,
actual fact.
did you get that that Sentinel that HasLab did?
No. So I love it. I again going back to guardrails. My Marvel collection is movie universe.
Okay, good for
So
you.
I have all of the film. I have a couple of very few exceptions. I decided to get a couple of non-film figures that are analogs of some of my favorite Toy Biz Marvel figures from when I was a kid. And I have officially completed that with my recent acquisition of Doctor Doom, of the new retro Doctor Doom.
Oh yeah, that looks great.
I haven't opened him yet, but that is the only one I was missing. So
Man.
yeah.
What about
You're
you,
not gonna
Dave?
get that,
Did you get a Sentinel?
No Sentinels for me. Marvel Legends was kind of that was another one where it was like, hey, this is too much, and going back and collecting would be a lot. Although I'm always still going to keep the idea of potentially getting a Ghost Rider or two in the back of my mind.
Sure.
I like when things are a jumping off point where I can get into it when it's new. So the DC Multiverse figures have been kind of what I've jumped into a little bit. Keeping things, my guardrails have been like, if it reminds me of the Kenner superpowers or movies.
Oh, okay. No, that's good. Good for you. I need guardrails.
They're important, man.
Page out of your book.
Dude, they're important, especially, when you're as inundated as we all are with this stuff. It's it could get ugly real quick.
Yeah, it's dicey,
Yeah.
right?
See my Funko Pop collection. It is there were no rolls at some point.
No, it's crazy. I only have a few Funko Pops, and they were all gifts minus one that I bought for myself, and that was the Sharknado one. And that's the only one that I opened, and that's the only one that's worth a damn. Isn't that funny how that works? I saw it for like $100. I'm like, oh man, it's just sitting on my desk. I totally just ripped it out of the package and just played with it. So funny.
So Justin, where can we find you on social media? Is there anything in particular that you would like to plug this episode, just so that you're aware? We're recording it on Thursday the 5th. It will be live this coming Monday. So
Sure.
is there anything that you would like to plug before we sign off for the evening?
Yeah, man. Thank you for the opportunity. I actually just happen to be on 3 different podcasts. There's the Geek Legacy podcast, where we talk about everything in the realm of entertainment news. There is the Pixelated podcast, where we discuss the week's highlight in video game news. And then there's even Don't Be Crazy, where we discuss and dissect what makes a film, past or present, absolutely amazing or just pure rubbish. And if you want to follow me on social media, you're more than welcome to, @EdgyArmo, because I'm Armenian. And even though there's no O in Armenian, it just sounds cool to say Edgy Armo. So if you want to check out some adorable photos and videos of animals doing really cute stuff and some toy photography posts every now and again, then be sure to follow @Edgy Armo. And then, of course, please follow @Bluefin Brands for exciting news, product updates, giveaways, live streams, and all sorts of fun stuff.
Awesome. And Justin, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And this was a blast. So
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you, Justin.
Oh, thank you. It was a real honor, man. I'm sorry if I bogarted the mic. I like to talk.
Nope. That's we love to have people like you on. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, dear listener, for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azzari, the golden voice behind our intro. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies. Find more about them both on our show notes.
Follow us on social media @AIC_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Stop by and say hi, show us your toy hauls, and share your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.